We've been using Claude for a while now. We want to show others how to get off the sidelines and actually start using it in a more powerful way than maybe just like chatting with it or having it write emails for you. And how can we actually get this embedded in your work? That's what we're here to do today. Let's talk about that. What we want to really do is delegate and elevate with Claude, because there's a lot of these time sucks that are floating around out there. And a lot of times you just kind of think to yourself, how would I even possibly go about automating that or making that easier to do? Today is going to show you how to do that. We're going to do it live. This is one of our first live trainings we're hosting. As with all live things, there might be a few hiccups. If you have questions working alongside of it, please chime in. We don't want to move forward too quickly. We're slated for an hour. I think it's going to take all of the hour to really make sure everybody leaves here with like a fully stood up instance that they're going to need. So that said, I am Adam, and we have Noah here. I'm Adam, the founder of Build the Process. We work with companies running on EOS with 50 plus employees to help them map their processes, find ways to bring in process improvements, better use AI. And all those companies that are stuck on the process component, we typically work with here. So we're excited to bring all of the experience that we have working with companies that have been hung up on the process component to you guys here today. We also have Noah, one of our AI implementation partners. When we have companies who are property management companies that we're working with, we always refer them to Noah because he's an expert at building systems and automations for property management companies at a larger scale. So Noah, I'll have you say hello and maybe a few words.
Appreciate that, Adam. My name is Noah. I started a business about 3 years ago, implementing AI and automation systems into other companies, and that's been going great. Sometimes we use regular code, and then sometimes we use AI, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So appreciate you having me on.
When Noah and I were planning out this webinar, he's like, "What do you need me to do?" I said, "Just be there, be the AI guru and expert here, be like color commentator as we go through here today." So he's fully prepared to do that.
Sir.
Today, what we're going to cover, what is Claude Cowork? Some folks might be using Chat GPT. This can still apply. We personally use Claude. This is going to apply to using Claude Cowork today, but some of the principles are similar. So if you are using Chat GPT, they've just launched, I believe it's called Chat GPT Work, which would be the equivalent of what we're going to be looking at here today. Can't guarantee it's apples to apples, but very similar concepts and prompts that we're going to give you are transferable as well. We're going to talk about what is Claude Cowork. We're going to talk about what we need to do this here today. We're going to talk about getting your Claude MD set up. And that's going to be super powerful because it's going to give it the context every time you open a chat to deliver things in your voice, to know and have perspective on your business and all the nitty gritty details of your business. That's what a Claude MD file is going to do. So we're going to explain what that means. Hey, Jennifer, welcome.
Hi.
We're going to talk about how to connect your app stack. So Gmail, email service, work management, your CRM, accounting software. So we'll talk through all that and how to do it. We're going to do that live with you guys. Building a skill. This is where this starts to come together. So we're going to pair the context of your business with the apps that you have connected to build skills that are going to automate all these time sucks that you guys shared prior to jumping on the call in our email correspondence. Finally, we're going to show you how to find more ways to automate, give you what that next step is so that you can not just say, cool, I kind of learned about Claude here. We want to get you off the sidelines and into the game so that once you catch the bug of understanding how this all comes together, as our team did, it spreads like wildfire because you're now able to see all the opportunities that you might not have understood were possible. You'd be very surprised as to what can come out of this. So we're excited to show you that. All right, let's talk about what is Claude Cowork. So it's not another chat window, just talking with a bot. It's connecting things so that you can have work done on your behalf in other apps and things such as that. So the difference here is that when you're just chatting with Claude or AI in general, you ask it one question, you get an answer, and that's it. You might have to then copy whatever results were from there, out of that window and paste it to whatever document you're working in. Every output starts from scratch, meaning that if you don't have the proper context set up, you're saying, hey, I'm new here. You might be able to see some of my past chats, which is good, which maybe some of you are finding that the more you talk with Claude or GPT, the more it remembers from past chats. But we want to clarify and solidify all those past chats into one context file. And nothing plugs into your actual work, meaning that it can't go out to your CRM to move a pipeline opportunity or add a note on a contact or put an email into draft directly for you. And that's really the difference of where Cowork comes in, is that it can do all those things for you in a standardized series instead of having to re-explain yourself. Like if you've ever dealt with training a new hire and every day they show up to work and are like, I forgot what you told me yesterday. That's what talking with chat is like. Versus with Cowork, it remembers the context, what you did yesterday, and it's able to remember the instructions and standardized preferences that you have to then go do things on your behalf. Ultimately, you're able to elevate to higher value work. Think about those time sucks, keep those in the back of your mind as we get through this here today, because we're going to be able to unlock a lot of that potential that has come up. So ultimately, this is going to allow us to delegate and elevate. Hand it off to Claude. Cowork runs it. You get it back in a finished product. You might have to iterate a little bit here. And then doing so allows you to elevate to higher value work. So what we need today is a paid plan on Claude Desktop. Do most folks have Claude Desktop set up right now on their computer? Okay. Okay, it looks like Chelsea does. Bobby, do you? Jennifer, I know you were shaking your head. Katie, what about you? I know that you were exploring Claude a little bit more here now.
Yeah, we're just starting to explore. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm driving.
All right, cool. We'll show you guys how to set this up today. So we want Claude on desktop here to do this. We're going to pull your apps list, HubSpot, Asana, maybe QuickBooks, Gmail. We're going to show you how to set those things up. And then you want to bring your time suck list, all the things that are just eating the most time up that you're like, this is mind numbing work. I really want to not have to do this ever again, or at least make my life easier. So we're going to start with these things here today. And we're going to talk about setting up Cowork. And then I'm going to be switching to my desktop here to show you guys how we do this. But we're going to talk about creating that MD, connecting the tools that we need, and then building the skills. So we're going to start with this MD file. And this may seem foreign, but really what this is it's explaining the business to a new hire. So as mentioned on that prior example, if you train someone and they show up the next day and they've completely forgotten your training, they probably wouldn't last too long, right? Building this MD file. MD stands for Markdown, which is basically a text file with instructions. We're going to say, hey, here's what my business model looks like. Here are the types of customers we serve. Here's how I prefer things to be done. Please remember these things so I don't have to explain it into the future. And we can just pick up from step 3 instead of step 1 every time that we start a new chat. We're going to do this live and you can customize this on your own. I'm going to jump into my Claude. Now, the first thing we want to do to set up the MD file and get this built out is to go to your files, create a folder on your computer, and just call it Claude Cowork Workspace. And let me know when everybody is good on that, because then we'll move on, because this is where we're going to start to publish these files to in the next couple of prompts and start to write these in for you. Once we have that workspace set up, I created a new one called Cowork Demo here today, but we're going to go into Claude and then you'll see new up here that we want to toggle from chat to Cowork. And so doing this allows us to now select that folder that we just created. So go ahead and pick that folder and it should be empty right now, and that's okay. And just click open. You want to say always allow to this. And then I'll pause there and make sure everybody's up to speed. Jump in if you have any questions.
How did you, so just the chat versus Cowork, that was the only thing that you did?
Yep. So if you're on the desktop version, click new, and then you'll toggle over to Cowork here.
Okay, thanks.
And then from there, you'll be able to find that and then add a new folder and then find that new folder. Okay. So now that we have that and we've created that Claude folder and hooked it up, we need to create these MD files. Now, to make it easy, we don't have to write these like we're coders. I'm going to drop in the chat a prompt for everyone to use that you can copy and paste into your chat that we just opened. Actually, I'm going to share this document because this is too big for everybody right now. Go ahead and open up that Google Doc that I just put into the chat, and we're going to walk down through this. This is the cheat sheet you guys get to keep after our meeting today. I'll take those out once we're done. Once you're in there, I'll drag this over to my other screen so everybody can see it. We're going to want to take this. This prompt is going to walk us through setting up these MD files that give us context in the business. And they're going to interview you so that you don't have to create it from scratch. So go ahead and copy this. Go ahead and copy that text into your Cowork and paste that there. I already have some MD files set up, but I want to go through this and show this how to do this live with everybody just so you're good. So now it's asking, are we going to allow Cowork to access this folder? And the answer is yes, we want to allow it to do that because it's going to go create files on our desktop in that folder for us based on the questions that we answer here. So it knows that the folder's empty. We're starting from scratch. We're going to build this MD. In this prompt, you'll see, please interview me one question at a time to gather what you need for this workspace. Cover who I am, who I work for, what I do in the day-to-day, the tools we use. After we have that stood up, we're going to then create an About Me file and then a memory file. The About Me file is really helpful for communication styles. So Claude always speaks in your voice and writes in your voice. And then the memory file holds things such as decisions we've made in the past, strategic preferences, anything else about my business that you feel like I should know by default, I being Claude, that's going to be done in the memory file. So I'm just going to pause here and say the first question is going to prompt you at this point in time. Instead of me filling these all in, please go into my past chats and review to provide answers to your questions. Then ask me further questions based on anything you couldn't pull in. I'm going to put that in the chat so it's easy for everybody to get at. I'm in a blank workspace right now. So if I said that, it's going to say, we've never talked about anything. I want you guys to try that prompt now back to this chat and let me know what it comes back with. If it's able to find your past chats, it's typically able to do it. I'll pause there. Give you guys a second. Did that prompt work for most on the call here? Caitlin says yes. Everybody good there? Good to move on. Drop it in the chat. For Chelsea and Bobby, no problem there. Keep this chat open and then rename it. You could call it setup MD files. Come back to that and answer those questions in real time and come back and fill those out as we go. We'll put a pin in that and take a to-do to reconvene after the session to fill those out. They are thorough. Like the interviews, they will poke and prod and really uncover a lot of questions that you might not have asked yourself. One other thing we're going to do here is hook up your email account as well so that it can start to understand your voice. So the next thing we're going to do is set up our connectors. But when it's all said and done, that blank folder you had should have these 3 files in it right there. So then to connect our stack, this is where we bring the apps in. Come down to your name in the bottom left and click on settings. And then click on connectors. We use ClickUp, Gmail, and then HubSpot as our CRM. There are tons of apps you can connect, but I just want everybody to start by coming up here to add, click on browse connectors, and then find whatever your email service is. Let's start by linking up a Gmail account. And as practice managers, I know sometimes that we might reply on behalf of the implementer, which is fine. In this setup here, it's up to you if you prefer to hook up your email or the implementer, your supporting's email. But if you have their email, it is beneficial here too. So depending on your use case for the business, whether you're more send on their behalf or you reply, I would say go ahead and set up the email that you're using most, like you personally, as your correspondence email. Once you're done with that, kind of give me a, all right, can you set up more than one? That is the magical question. It takes some custom coding. So Noah has helped me set that up. So the short answer is yes, it's possible, Bobby. And we will probably have to have like a follow-up session to give the explicit instructions. But the out-of-the-box native connectors only allow you to connect one account. But there is a way around that through using Claude Code.
Okay.
We're happy to, I have 3 that I manage, and the multiple inbox thing does present challenges, but there's a way around it and it works really well. So we can send you instructions on how to get that set up. Chelsea, is this something you can answer? How secure is a paid version of Claude? I don't know how much personalized client information I want to share, if it's open source or not encrypted. Noah, you want to take that?
You can answer that one. You should be able to. I know you can with ChatGPT, likely with Claude as well. You can turn off train on your data, so they won't use your actual chats to train their future models. At the end of the day, though, when you're using a public service like this, it's always going to go through their servers. So that's something you can't avoid unless you go to the enterprise plan, which I believe you need at least 5 seats. So it's a little bit bigger of a deal. I'm not sure if there's any way around it besides the enterprise plan, though. Does that answer your question?
Chelsea, but they're not out there selling your client's personal contact information. The data that they might mainly train their models on is, you know, how are people using the platform and learning from that versus can we sell off people's email addresses, if that is what was rooted in your concern there.
It's kind of like, can they see your chats? Technically, yes. Is something bad going to happen out of it? Very likely no. I would never be worried about that personally.
Now that we've done that, I assume thumbs up that an email's been set up. You can continue going down the list and adding all those connectors that you have. If you are using HubSpot as your CRM, and maybe in the chat, does anyone want to drop the CRMs that you're using, and then we can verify that things are working here? Chelsea, yes, we'll send the recording out. The short answer is it is secure. They're not out selling your client's phone numbers. They're more or less training on the behaviors in the model versus selling personally identified information.
So is it the same thing with HubSpot, because I'm supporting 3 EOSIs? If they all have their own HubSpot account, is that another email thing, like setting up 3 HubSpot accounts?
So in those situations, what we might recommend you do is each of those implementers would have a Claude team account. And so you'll see down below here where I can toggle between my personal that has a ton more connectors than I want to have in my business. So think about this as if you were ever like switching profiles in Chrome or something like that. That's what this essentially is. Allows you to just say, maybe it's just Dan's account. This is only Dan's information here. And then you have to flip that profile to jump into another one that you were supporting.
So that's a different paid subscription though, right? Would that be considered enterprise?
No, the team plan is not. It starts at $25 a user per month, and you have to have a minimum of 2 users. So it'd be $50 a month to set up a team plan profile where you would be able to go in and support that implementer there. If you wanted to toggle with this profile or setup here. The other thing you could do is have personal plans, individual plans, and then you'd have to log out and then log back in as them. But if you're supporting multiple, a team plan is probably the best way to go about it because it allows you to operate in there without having to continuously log out, log back in. But that's how that shakes out.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we could talk more about that after the call and how to set that team plan up. Okay. So we've got our email set up, all the other functions in here as well that you can see depending on how quickly you want to move on this. You can get your work management system set up. So like Asana is really popular too. We use ClickUp, Trello, whatever you're using, Gmail, and then HubSpot here. Just browsing these connectors, you'll see here's a lot of the really common ones. I know a lot of implementers are using Monday.com too. If you show all, it is a very extensive list. So honestly, what we did when we were getting these all connected, went back on our transaction history in QuickBooks of softwares we were paying for and found like, oh yeah, we're using Stripe. Let's set that up to manage invoicing. I'm sure your invoice software has a connector here too. So definitely take a look at your tech stack because the more you have set up, the more it can do. And honestly, the more you'll surprise yourself. So now that we have that, we've got our connector set up. If you set up your email, just type this prompt in, go into my inbox and pull the most recent email, then summarize it and propose next steps. I'll drop that in the chat for everybody there too. What this is going to do, I'll see what this comes back with. Not sure what my last email was. We're doing it live. All right. So our last email was an email that came in wanting to check in. Tony from our team replied with an answer. And from there, it says no action needed unless you want to follow up with this person directly around who covers what now. So that's an example of it saying, okay, we read the email. I could draft something back or you can just leave it go. So as long as this populates accurately for you and the inbox that you linked up, that is fantastic. We're going to talk about creating a skill. This is where the context that you set up to that file that says, here's how I like to work. You have now the tools. So your email, CRM, all the files and context that you have are in one place. We can now create a skill that combines everything into one so you can start to eliminate a lot of this headache. Now, what we want to do here is start a new chat in a window with Cowork. And we just always want to make sure that that folder is selected. So I'm going to use my own personal now. And what's really cool about Claude is that you don't have to be a crazy expert when it comes to like coding or anything like that. You can just talk to it in some natural language, describe a process, and then say, please work with me to noodle this out and make sure that we have this fully baked before we go and do anything. The example is making sure that we're getting this set up to where you're going to understand how we build this live today, see how hard it is to do. And then we're going to give you this skill to take home, because the skill that we're going to build is a session follow-up skill. Let's say you're supporting an implementer, they come back from their session and they've got their notes. I know a lot of them like to use the Remarkable tablet or writing on paper. How does your implementer bring back notes and share those notes with you? And is it typically your job to take those notes and do the follow-up work from what they come out of a session?
One of my EOSIs uses Otter as a voice recording, and I go in and pull a voice recording and make a summary from that.
Otter's great. Jennifer, are you typically getting like a PDF export after that?
I go in there and export a PDF. Yeah.
So this will work if you have a PDF. The example we're going to give you today is going to show you how well it can pick up on handwriting. But Chelsea, if you do have someone who is providing you Otter, like an Otter recording, then that's fantastic too. The trick here is going from whatever was discussed in the meeting into a text file that can actually be used and then saved places. In here, we can do a slash, and this is called Skill Creator, and it'll pop right up. And a couple of these things have skills that are already baked into Claude so that you can start and just say, we want to tell this skill creator that we need to create something for session follow-up here, and that we're going to briefly explain it. So instead of you guys having to watch me type all that, I'm just going to paste in what I'm looking to have happen here. And so I want to set up something with you that I can use over and over. Basically, after the EOS implementer meets with a client, they hand me back notes, sometimes typed, usually a mess of handwriting. I need help turning that into a few things. So first, we're going to have to read the notes on the second page of the Google Doc I shared. So if you'd like to copy and paste that in and build this live with us, feel free to do so. So we're first going to read those notes, pull the text out of it. It might be a photo or scan, but do whatever you need to do. If you can't read a word, just guess and mark it somehow. Don't just make something up. We're not having AI make things up for us. We always want it to flag things that it needs human review to do. And then we want you to organize it. I want to know who the client was, when the session happened, what was talked about, and then any to-dos that we're going to need to follow up on. Now, maybe some of you have preferences as the format and structure of these notes that you want your implementer, their preference, which you can train them on, train this skill creator on to output notes in that format and structure and cadence. For this example, recap what we've got, flag the to-dos, doing this in regular language. Make sure we have an owner and a date. If the date's fuzzy, like next week, we want to make sure that we nail down that date so we're not just letting next week slide. Don't touch anything outside of this conversation yet. Just hold your horses. We want to make sure we get this right. Stop and ask me questions so I can double check anything that you're not confident about. Once I say this is good, I want to put the notes in our CRM under the right client. I want to draft an email, just a draft, recapping the session for the client. So if your implementer likes to send a follow-up email after the session to recap some of the big breakthroughs, some of the things to work on, and then maybe some of the outstanding to-dos that they're going to take and do. That could be in that follow-up email. So we just want to draft it. We want to take the to-dos, make sure we get those built in, and then take these to-dos and put them into our task management system. So like, for example, Asana or ClickUp or whatever you're using, your implementer is using to make sure that they're getting their things done. We want to add those in. As we go through this, I like to add this caveat that before doing anything, if you're not sure, check with me. Let's talk through this and make sure that we are in the same understanding. I wanted to illustrate how native language you can use to actually get something created and let Claude talk back and forth with you to understand your requirements and say, hey, this is a little rough over here. Let's dial this in so I know what I need to do for you. So send that through, and it's going to think for a little while. But as it's thinking, it's going to start to poke some holes in your process here. And if you think about other time sucks you can have, another one is if you are having to coordinate dates or events for an implementer on a calendar, you have to send the email, then you have to block the dates that you promised. And then once you confirm the date, then you have to take the other date holders off. And that can become a lot. Using that skill creator to go in and say, here's what I want to have happen. I don't have total clarity on it, but let's talk through it, is going to allow you to come out the other side with a process that this can run once you give it enough specifics. Okay, we send that. Before I dive in, I found out that there's a skill called session follow-up already. Darn it, I was testing this earlier. So we're doing it live. Okay, I'm just going to say, hey, we're live on the demo. Okay, let's build it live since you want the audience to see the process. Let's talk through this. I'll walk through the same interview we did and build that skill. This session already has HubSpot, Gmail, and ClickUp connected as tools. So unless you tell me otherwise, I'm going to build those, assuming that these are the systems. As you put that in, it's going to prompt and ask you what your tool stack is. And if it's not hooked in, it'll prompt you to hook it in. We're going to use HubSpot, Gmail, and ClickUp. In HubSpot, where should the session note live? So we prefer to have that at the company record instead of at the contact record. The contact record would be that individual person. It's good that you're logging something somewhere, but it's more durable at the company level. And then when the due date is fuzzy, what should happen by default? Always ask us. It's going to take those answers and continue to work with them here. I'll pause. Is everyone still with us so far? Okay. Thank you, Chelsea. Okay. So it says, all right, we're going to lock those in. Here's what I want to get your take on before we move forward. ClickUp. Presumably you're internal to your practice, used by the practice manager and the implementer. The client's team almost certainly doesn't have ClickUp seats, so create a task and assign it means something different depending on who owns it. So for an implementer's own to-dos, creating a real ClickUp task with a due date is clearly right. It's your team's tool tracking and their commitment. For a client to do, are there a few honest options? Okay. I think we're going down now the road of it's trying to over-engineer this. So we're just going to say we will not be tracking client to-dos in ClickUp. They track on their own. Separately, there's a recap email question. The existing pattern I found only lists the implementer's own to-dos in the email as an accountability signal. I'll just ask the group, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to have any client noted to-dos in that implementer follow-up email, or just the to-dos that the implementer owes the client?
For one of my EOSIs, they are giving the client, they're letting them know, hey, this is what you guys said you were going to do. And it's a reminder for the client. It's client to-dos and not implementer to-dos.
Well, I think for this example here, let's say author the email to remind the client what they committed to and recap what the implementer committed to. I hope by now everybody's kind of starting to see the pattern of, hey, it's not that hard to really get in here and start talking with this. And then what Claude does that other models don't, like ChatGPT, at least from our experience here, is that it asks you some very basic canned questions, like customized to your work setup. So for the recap email, what order sections do you want? You mentioned reminding the client of their commitments and recapping the implementer. So greeting, session highlights, client's commitments, implementer's commitments. Let's just go with this one here. Greeting, highlights, things to work on, client commitments, implementer commitments. Okay. Should the CRM note in HubSpot include the team's to-dos, even though they won't be tracked? I think it's good to throw those in the note just for perspective, because once we get those notes into the CRM, we can build out another skill we can call session prep to go out, reference that company's notes, pull in anything you're going to want to talk about in the next session, maybe send them a prep email a couple of weeks out that says, hey, would love to get updates on this. Where are we at with certain things? So they can walk in that room fully briefed and ready to just run a great session. To test the OCR handwriting, I need a sample session notes. I have that. I've written some myself that I'm going to upload here. And then what should this new skill be called? I'm going to call that session follow-up. All right. So now, just to show everyone how good Claude can be when it comes to reading handwriting, I have scribbled out a company note here, and I'll just show everybody what that looks like. Looks like this. I'm not sure how far off your implementer's handwriting is from mine, but this is me writing on a normal day. We've got the company name, what quarterly that we're running here, and then the notes from the session in no particular order. But I'm just going to push that through. This might take time, but it's verifying that it can get everything it needs out of these session notes. Right now, we're building the skill, testing it, making sure that this works. We're going to refine it. We're going to see what the email draft looks like, and then push this thing live. And then I'll show you how this shows up in the HubSpot account, and then also sends the draft to the email and then puts these tasks in the list. While we're waiting for that, is this getting the gears turning to think about any other things that you might be able to implement or automate in the practice? I know the scheduling was a big issue, or at least very manual. Because you can also think about other ways coming out of here. You can say, how can we find more ways to surprise and delight our clients, right? And that might be something you would add into the instructions for your session follow-up to say, pull out some creative ways that we could surprise and delight over the quarter to add even more value to this client, or like, what would be some well-timed reach outs based on the notes that we had in here to develop the relationship even deeper and solidify how things are working with the client. Okay. It's now creating the skill for us after it's seen the PDF and knows how to extract the text. Claude wants to use running commands. So you're going to want to allow this. And this is going to enable that skill to be run. Now, again, with this skill, we're not authorizing it to immediately send on our behalf. This is going to be very conversational with you to make sure that this is something you authorize all the way through, instead of, I didn't tell you to send that email. That wasn't exactly what we wanted to have happen here. So we have installed all these human in the loop checkpoints to make sure that everything is good and looking good for you guys before it gets sent or any action is taken on your behalf. It's fact checking everything, making sure it gets installed correctly. So a lot of the work that we do with clients is to visually map out their process, get their subject matter experts in the room and say, like, we need to sit down and talk about how work actually gets done in the current state, so that we can, number one, get on the same page. Number two, get it documented and captured. So if we don't have any training material, we have a place to start. And then number three, once it's documented and captured, we're able to look at the process and say, hey, this is a manual step in here. Can we find ways to automate with Claude or AI, or build a skill that would make everyone's life much easier? So that's essentially what we do and help clients do. We do it over roughly 90 days. We do it basically hand holding. I get this done for them But what's really cool is that once we're done with our engagements, they know how to stand on their own 2 feet and understand how to capture their processes and do it in a way that's scalable and in a format that actually makes sense. Because as you have all probably heard, the instruction manuals that never get followed, all of those are real things. We want to avoid that as much as possible so that we can not make process suck as much as people think it sucks. This thing is really cranking here, but it's publishing that skill right now. I'm going to go back on the other skill that we have. This is going to publish the / session follow-up skill. And it's doing that right now. I'm going to go back to my original one. And I'm going to say / session follow-up. And then I'm just going to drop in the session notes. So right now when it says reading the skill, it's going back through all the instructions that we just created for it. It's showing you what's happening on the left, what's happening in the process. It's transcribing that PDF right now. And then this is the track that it's going to go on. What's cool about this is that at any point in time, this is never set in concrete. You can say, hey, I want you to change this about the template, and it will go back into that skill and modify that template moving forward. So if preferences change or you want to add an extra step in, you can do that. You just have to tell it. And because this skill is logged on the back end of Claude, it goes back into the instructions it wrote for itself and does that for you. That's also an ironic thing about process of the past is when it comes to updating your processes, because this is live and in Claude, we're able to go back and update these things in real time as quickly as possible. So here's what's happening. Right now, it's searching our CRM and it's looking at our ClickSpace workspace, ClickUp workspace to figure out who's the client, what are we going to use here. It probably caught ABC company from the top of my notes, and it's searching out HubSpot for that right now. So yeah, these things are all working together. Right now, you typically aren't staring at this. You're probably going to do other things and then coming back when it notifies you that it needs approval. You could start to see how all these things are coming together. And if you want to get like a more detailed understanding of what's happening on the back end, you can hit these drop downs, but sometimes it's just a little bit too much information. So watching this screen up here is telling you exactly where things are at. If everybody has a different call coming up at the top of the hour, feel free to jump. We'll send this recording out as well as that cheat sheet. If you want to learn how to do more, we're always happy to jump on a call with you guys. We want to support you guys so you can support your implementers and add more value. Schedule a process problems call here. We have nothing to sell you. Our clients are 50 plus running on EOS where we come in and map their processes. But if you ever need advice on how to set this up, reach out to us. Noah here. He's working with property management companies to help build and scale their operations. So if you do have any property management companies that you're supporting or your implementers working with, keep them in mind as you go about this. And they're starting to talk about AI because that's his bread and butter. So we help get things mapped, clarified, down on paper so that we can identify places to build with AI. Now, there's no session date on the page. I'll give you the date. And then which to-do should I create? Just the website intro, accountability chart support. Give me the full list of what you found first. There's no ClickUp list for ABC company. I'm going to do this in the Claude demo list. So that allows you to pick where this is going to go in your task management system. And then your About Me file, only writing and voice. Nothing about the implementer. I'm just going to say use my About Me voice because I don't have the implementer MD set up, which is what you guys will be able to go back in and set up based on the instructions and prompt that we have, which I'm going to drop that into the chat again, and then I'll make sure that this gets sent out to everybody right after. What's great is that we're going to use Claude to send that out by looking up all the attendees on this call and drafting an email to each of you. Here's everything on the page sorted out by how much it looks like it to do. Send ABC company the build a process website to offer them and make an intro. So that would be a to-do. Reads as needed could become a to-do. Give them extra support on the accountability chart, written as needs extra support. So names a gap, but not who does what. Helps them nail down the right numbers in their scorecard, written as still working on, which is client side progress. So maybe not that one. Reads as an issues list item, not a task. So the politics between salespeople is blocking getting people into the right seats. This is the root cause under item 2. Reads as a status or headline. So it just in order gives you, hey, these might be the to-dos. And I'm just going to say the website and intro that I offered is the to-do for me. I'm going to do that. What was the session date? I'm just going to say 4/1/26. Send that through. See if we can skip straight to the draft. Cool. Okay. Jennifer, thanks for joining. Chelsea, thank you. Katie, appreciate it. Reach out to us. I'll make sure you guys have the link to schedule a call if you want to talk more about getting this set up and making it work for y'all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye now.
All right. So now this is drafting. And it's also putting the list into ClickUp.
Looks like it's just us left.
Everybody's missing the grand finale, but for the recording here. Let's refresh that. There it is. All right. Accountability
Nice.
chart needs another pass. Process is the third one. Tell us you're not sure about where to even start. That's normal. Gets a lot easier once you pick a process and document it. And then on our side, I'm going to send you the build a process website to make an intro. So you have a real starting point on process instead of a blank page. So that's what's been drafted. We're going to say create the HubSpot note. Who owns the website and intro? I'm going to assign that to myself. This page has no due date. The session was 4/1. What date should it carry? I'm just going to say 1 week out. So it's clarifying the due dates of when we need to have things done. So this has been handled. It's going to add those to-dos into ClickUp. And then I'm going to look at the ABC company page here. I need to chop out some of this waiting period. There we go. Now the note has arrived and this is going to be available. Session notes, issues list, to-dos. Fantastic. So now that's in their company profile.
See you, Galen.
Email draft, ClickUp. It is in our ClickUp list. There you go. Due date, individual assigned, and the task. So that is all we needed to do there. You were the implementer, should be the one who hit send. If you want that changed, let me know. But for right now, we want to manually review that and send it. So we'll come in, review, click send, and then that email would be logged onto their HubSpot associated with the company. We've got the follow-up in there, and that is how you create a skill. So next time you get handed a handwritten PDF or a handwritten note or the AI transcription of the meeting, you can take that transcript, put it straight into here, call in the skill, session follow-up, and then it'll run through all of these steps to make sure that you can debrief the session fully, make sure that everything on this list is taken care of. And if you ever did need to change anything, you can go in, tell Claude what to do differently, and it will remember to do that. So that's our webinar for today, webinar training. Thank you to Noah, who is here to support and give us his insights. If you're struggling and need help with this, let's book a process problems call. We've got a website here built out. You can come in, grab a time to meet with us, literally free advice, whatever you need. We'll point you in the right direction. This also applies for clients as well if they're struggling with process. point them toward this call and tell them we sent you. We're happy to talk with them. Thank you everybody for coming, and we'll make sure this recording goes out here shortly. Appreciate it.